It's still blue. I should sit down. I could plan this stuff beforehand, but what's the fun in that? What's the fun in being prepared? Properties, filters, color correction. There you go. And one thing is, I want to have the fireplace showing, and then also the book. But if I'm off of the YouTube tab, you can't see it. So I guess you'll just have to hear it. Is it too quiet? It's really quiet here. Let me get a little bit louder. We're done. Actor. Hope you're doing okay. I bought... You know, that would be a good idea if I planned the assets out beforehand. That would be good. But given that I'm not used to typing on here yet, and everything is everywhere, it's probably better for us to forgo the chair and sit on the floor. Today I ordered food for the first time since living here. I was really nervous. I mulled over for like half an hour because it was quite expensive, but they had a promotion, so I got almost half off. So I thought, this is a sign to buy it. And I want to tell you, if you're going to a pizza place, you know, one of those semi-fast food pizza places, and you think, wow, pizza would go really well with this macaroni and cheese, I'm here to tell you that, no, it wouldn't. Don't buy the mac and cheese. Don't do it. No matter how good the photo looks, it's so little mac and cheese for so much money. I was bamboozled. I was very disappointed in my financial decisions. No, there will never be a spiral. I am too fiscally responsible. No spiral. I don't even want to tell you. Quantifying it that way makes it so much worse. Maybe for macaroni per dollar. I'm so ashamed. Well, I've learned I'll never buy that again. No. Oh, I have some good news, but I'm gonna wait because there might be better news. So, on the plus side, if there is the better news, I have the pizza for the pizza party. I ate 3 slices. I felt really sick afterwards. I ate too much. I was doing such a good job with eating healthy and a calorie deficit, and then I just ruined it. I completely ruined it today, so I have to fast for a long time to make up for this. This was a mistake. I knew I was gonna feel bad after, and I did. Why can't I control myself around pizza? Why? Why is pizza so strong? But you know, I got so sick from the pizza that it gave me the courage to sprout the gummies. The rest of them. But you know, the best part of eating gummies is when they go to uneaten stage to slightly eaten stage. Best part, and then the sugar melts off, so I chewed all of them a little first. And then I spit them into the trash. Yeah. Now there's no way I would eat them. Not that I'm so desperate I would just go digging in there after. I wouldn't have chewed them up a little, but it's extra assurance, you know? I think it's good to have. And I know the mystery of my socks has been solved too. I forgot to mention. Those, I don't know if I mentioned it, but those red socks that were in a pair with all my others that I thought my brother stole, he did steal them, and he says he stretched them out very, very much, and he wears them for basketball, so I'm never getting them back ever. They're gone. Goodbye, red socks. Patch Kids. Are they ghosts? I don't know if they're ghosts, but Sour's the good part. Well, you're thinking jokes about stretching it over his head and stuff, and it's quite funny. They're not ghosts, but I haven't sought them out in a long time. Speaking of throwing away gummies, I think before when I was trying to get healthy too, I think I threw away the watermelons. Those are probably even better than the original, so that's a lot of commitment. The bunnies are de-sugared and in the trash now. Oh, yeah, they are. I remember my friend really liked them in middle school, so I bought her huge bags of them for her birthday. I hope I didn't contribute to any. No, she's a kid, she's fine. She didn't get diabetes. That's not how that works. It's not immediate like that. But also, you said, remember how I said how the oil spilled everywhere because I didn't have in the oven because I didn't have pans yet? And I said you'll keep note of this for when you move. Also, if you do make the same mistake and you forgot to take the first note, the second note is you can do self-cleaning in the oven, and then it turns everything to ash, and then you can just wipe it away. You don't have to scrub it for 2 hours like I did, and I didn't even get everything off, so that's why I tried the self-clean, and then everything was ash. It was so easy. I wish I wouldn't have scrubbed it for so long in such an awkward position, but it's okay. You know, I know now, and also when you're doing that, take the racks, the oven racks out, because if you leave them in, then the enamel on them gets messed up and they don't slide easily anymore. I didn't know that, but luckily, after I ran it for the first time, I think yesterday, it was only in there for like 30 minutes, and then I wanted to look up how self-cleaning worked. It's just by using really a lot of heat, a lot of heat, more than you would cook food at, and it incinerates everything. But I looked it up while I was doing that, and I found out you're not supposed to keep the racks in there, so I saved them. It was only in there for like 25-30 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, you can leave pans in there, and you can leave the racks in there. So just a bit of yes, I was very lucky, huh? I don't know if they'd make me pay for it, but I Sam. Cause how do you? I mean, how much does it cost to re-grease racks? How do you put a price on the greasiness of a rack? The slippability of a rack, an oven rack. How are they gonna bill me for that? I have no idea. That's a good summary. And the pizza too. I was scared that he wasn't gonna know the place, so I described the outside carefully in the delivery instructions, and so he got it, so it was okay. I also realized I didn't shower for a bit, and so I was too nervous to go outside like that, so I tried to speed shower. I took the fastest shower I've taken in like years. It was, or maybe there was one other one that was faster. It was only like 15 minutes. World record for myself, so not a world record at all. A self record. I don't know how you'd have a shower world record. You have to have a lot of parameters, huh? But anyway, I took a fast shower in case he asked for directions. But I didn't. And I realized they were. I do feel bad though. You always see that older records, being beaten from so long ago. I guess that's how it's supposed to be as more people compete, but it does feel like athletes have gotten better and better. Maybe with more nutrition and globalization and more training and making money off of sports easier. I don't know, but I do feel bad for those old athletes, but maybe they're dead. Maybe they can imagine their record lasts forever and ever. On the pizza, I got mushrooms, onions, spinach. Is that all? Mushrooms, onions, and feta. Yeah, mushrooms, onions, spinach, and feta. Yeah. And also they had I bought it from the pizza place that said that they would employ me because I was thankful, and I don't think I'm gonna end up working there, so I wanted to give them at least a little bit of business. Yes, business. And what did I get for the sentiment? I get scammed. Mac and cheese scam. It's okay. And what else? Something I was gonna say and then I just blinked. I don't know. It's nice. Tip? Yeah, I had to. Not good about legends. Let me think about. Yeah, spinach on pizza is great. It's okay. It kind of slipped my mind, but it's fine. Maybe we'll come back later. I don't know. But I have pizza in case the good news works out. They said that they tell me at the end of the week. Does the end of the week mean Friday or Sunday? If it means Friday, then... oh, wow. Do you think it means Sunday? Well, I mean, I shouldn't hold my breath, I guess. You know, I can still kind of hear people through the window. And... well, you think? Friday? That's a shame if it's true. But, I mean, the place is off on the weekend, so maybe they wouldn't reach out over the weekend. Oh well. I thought it went quite well. Saturday... yeah. Well, just because she's not in the office doesn't mean that she can't, like, reach out to interviewees, you know? It's not like she couldn't do that. It would only take a few minutes. But... oh, it's unlikely, huh? Well, there's still a few days. I won't worry about it now. Like I was saying, I can hear people through the window that I covered up, and I've been too nervous to do a test of the sound leaking through because I'm very sure you can still hear me. But it's okay because everyone's asleep at this time. So it doesn't matter that you could probably hear me through the window even with the coverings. And besides, I always have my earbuds off so I can listen if there are people coming up the stairs or if there are doors opening. So, yeah, I imagine... Is everyone around me... does everyone around me live like a mouse, or is the insulation quite good? I have no idea. Because through the windows I can hear a lot, but then in the living room and every other place I can't really hear anything. But I do wonder if everyone's just super considerate. I was just gonna leave something playing on the computer, yeah. That's what I was gonna do. I think the windows you can still hear, but I'll hope that, you know, people have not really heard me. Also, I realized when I was getting the food and packages from outside, because everything came today, that I ordered a while ago, have like, I always have like a, what would you call it? Like a SpongeBob villain facial expression defense mechanism. I think to try to And then I thought about how my face contorted, and I was thinking, like, why am I making this face? Like, why am I making, like, a mean mug right now? What is this? This isn't even how I feel inside, but I guess because I feel nervous, and so I want to seem intimidating, so they can't tell. I realize I do that subconsciously, but then it makes it seem like I'm angry or something. I don't know. No, there aren't really families. It mostly like college kids and young adults, or it's people just living alone. Yeah. Oh, and I had an interview. No, I noticed I do that the mean mug too when I walk, or like my walk, like a faint confidence walk sometimes. It's either that or I look miserable, miserable and nervous. hmm. To not make noise, you mean? Well, well, just for general consideration purposes, and also I don't really like to be heard, you know? I'm a needlessly private person sometimes. Yeah, it's either misery walk or faint confidence walk. And there seems to be no in between. I'll try to find an in between. Oh, I see what you mean. Well, they could have TVs, no? TVs, or like, some of them have partners. I know next door they have a partner for unfortunate reasons. Uh, that's a shame. I have earplugs though, so it doesn't really bother me, but I don't like it. Yeah, I don't know why did they do that in the living room. Anyway, I won't talk about it. I just don't understand it. I I'll be out of the house for a job soon, hopefully a lot, so then I won't have to even hear any of it. But usually the earplugs save me, plus I'm a very deep sleeper, so no problem. No, it is good. My bed is like right against the wall, that's why. And I think they're in the living room, so it's right on the other side. So it's not, it's not super bad at all. It's just unfortunate where I am. But anyway, I wish I could not hear it. I feel bad. I feel like I'm encroaching, but I'm just trying to sleep. But when I watch stuff in bed, I always have earbuds in, so I think I miss it a lot of times, which is good. Mm. Is it? Maybe. Well, I don't know. It's not my business. I guess hormones are high, huh? They're probably college kids. It makes sense. I don't wanna know. I don't wanna know. Unfortunately, I've had to know a little bit, but I don't wanna know. I, sometimes if I can't find my earbuds because I lost in my sheets, I have to like, put my pillows around my ears. Earphones? Yeah. Yeah, I usually wear earbuds, so it's not really a big deal. No problem. What else? So, let me see. Oh yeah, the interview. I had another interview on Friday. Yeah, I didn't go to the one on Thursday. Because as we discussed, it doesn't make sense. I don't want to be a cashier there, and it's too far away. But I did the interview yesterday, and I think it went pretty well. I think so. It was the time slot was 30 minutes, but that was I think just to allow if you had extra time. The phone call was like 15, so I think an appropriate amount of time for an interview. And they seemed, I don't know, they seemed like they're okay with me, I think. I don't know. The one thing is they ask you to brag about yourself, and I had nothing prepared, and I couldn't think of anything. So the only thing I could think of is that I care about people, and it made me feel yucky to even mention that as a thing. But I couldn't think of anything else good, so that was all I could say. And then I just said some things where they that they wanted like multitasking. I just made that up. Yeah, I don't like that question. It feels scummy. It feels scummy to use that as something to like brag about, but what else is there? I don't have any outstanding skills, you know? I couldn't really... Don't saying it makes you feel like you're the type of person who would like purposely go out of your way to like document things you do that are caring. Only for the sake of sharing them, not because you actually care. That's the feeling I got. So when I thought back to it, it made me bury my head in my hands. I hate it. Maybe it was a good time for jokes. I really did think that one earlier this week on Monday went well, but they could have just found someone more, with more history, work history, in the same field, so it's okay. I will keep looking, and I applied for more stuff yesterday. Yesterday I did, and so I have do I have time? Not really, but I'll explain. I can explain later. I'm gonna explain after I'm for sure if I got this one or not. If I did, then mega pizza party. If not, then I wait. I wait for results from this one, and they said that it would take a while because they have a pretty long interview process, so I won't be able to start working as soon there. So I do hope I get this other one, but just it's fine if I don't. I'm not expecting anything. Alright, other things. Guess the waiting game. I do wonder how I'm gonna transition out of being back in my shell for like 2 months to back out in the world, but usually it's just the first few days that are hard, and then you get used to it and you're okay. So I just have to do that. Yeah, just the first few days, that's it, and then I'll be able to get used to it again. I hope, right? I do worry about that though, because like when I went out to take out my recycling, that's true. It really does cement though that I cannot go outside unless I'm forced to. I do not. But when I went to take out my recycling earlier this week, it was very early in the morning because I like to go out to people and nap, so it was just at sunrise, and someone was leaving probably for work. And I was so aware of them and them possibly seeing me that as I was recycling, I tripped over the curb, and I couldn't stop laughing maniacally. Found it. I thought I must have looked like such a weirdo. I don't know which apartment I'm in though. Yeah, but it was right as the car drove by I tripped too. That's how on point my nervousness was. It couldn't have been like right after they passed. It's right as they passed. And it was like, it wasn't even just one small trip, it was like a double trip. I caught myself the first time and then half fell again. No, I caught myself. Well, the garbage kind of caught me. A huge garbage bin too. No, it's not ditzy. It's different. Different. I'm not clumsy at home. There's no one here. But yeah, when I was a kid, I thought I was always gonna spill things. I thought I was gonna spill things for the rest of my life. Because my hands couldn't stay still as a kid. So if I was walking with milk from the kitchen, there'd be puddles following me. A little trail of milk. A cat would have loved me. A kitten would have been my best friend. Skateboarding. Oh, I wanted to skateboard a bit in middle school. You know those penny boards? I think I had one of those. Because it looks so cool and it rides really smooth. But the thing is, it is very easy to trip. Like, it's harder to avoid potholes and stuff too. But rollerblading is a little bit easier. I used to rollerblade around the neighborhood quite often. But the cracks in the sidewalk ruin it. You have to be able to do a little jump over them. Yeah, I did. I skateboard a little. Yeah, I have a penny bar skateboard a little. Longboards? Yeah. Well, those are cool, but I think it's easier to do tricks on. I tried so long to do a kickflip. I can only do one, the easiest type of flip. The easiest type of skateboard flip. That's it. And it's the one that starts off from being still too. It wasn't even in the air. So not the most impressive. But I had good balance, you know. No crazy tricks. Have you ever been snowboarding? Just a bendy board. Yeah. Well, it would feel more like your your sidewalk surfing with that huge board, huh? That would be kind of cool. I never snowboarded. I thought it would be cool to snowboard. I did ski once. We went to see snow, but no snowboarding. Oh, I was going ice skating too for the same reason of balance. I want to go ice skating again. Though, you know, I do wonder what couples do on ice skating date, because all you do is essentially the equivalent of walking around in a circle with a bunch of strangers, but a little bit faster. And then if you fall, you also get hurt more. So I do wonder what you do, but maybe you just know what to talk about if you're with them all the time. Maybe you're very good at small talk, and just small talk with a bit of bonus possible head damage. True. I guess if I go, I will pretend to be bad just for a bit and see if they help me. I want to learn how to backwards skate, though I don't know if I remember. Of course. Hockey. Oh, what a shame. Astonishing. Well, I'm sure hockey players had. Do you mean that you were too busy? Well, or do you mean? Oh no, you mean that you weren't on the ice for it. You weren't good enough then. Well, I think hockey players are the new thing. I do hear sometimes over here in public people talking about them. Maybe it's just my mom. It's the new thing. People like. You think? Well, if you really like her, you could go practice. You go practice right before the date, you know? And once you get on, once you compliment you say, oh, I haven't been on the ice in so many years. Say, wow, retain so much. That's great. So yeah. Just one of my skills, you know. That's true. Don't bring that up with Sam here. I will mention that the girl in the script is a bit easy to please, so I don't know if it will work as described. You'll get him next time. Yeah. Don't worry. Yeah. It's like how Japan, I think, beat the US in baseball, something like that at last Olympics, right? Or was it softball? I think it was both. I think it was Japan first in both and US second in both. So it's the same thing where, like, you know, sometimes, like, the country's own first sport doesn't always get first, but, you know, you'll get them next time. Yeah. I think it's because I truly don't care. Isn't that your fault? Maybe you didn't manifest enough, you know? Did she not reach your sorry quota? That must be what it is. And it brought down the team morale. What a shame. Okay, today, reading. Yes, reading. Next Winter Olympics is already looking good. Off to a good start. Where you are? I'm neutral, but anyway. Right. So, let me put on. I don't know if we'll be there. Not a game. If we'll read the whole thing. I don't know if we'll read the whole thing today. Let me see where we can have. We'll just start right from the cover. When I read, I always like to look through every single page starting from the cover. Because sometimes they have cool bits in there, like cool attributions or whole dedications or little excerpts or facts, and so I always like to look through the whole thing. Sometimes that's the best part of a book. Well, if the book isn't particularly well written, that is. But, okay. Window capture. I have studio mode on, so this should. It doesn't. You can see it anyway. What is the point of studio mode? What does this even do? Forget it. It's fine. I think enough to not show my tabs, but not that that really matters. Okay. I'll go. Yeah. Today we're reading. I want to flip the pages so you can see. Oh, well, that's not it. Nope. There it is. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I want to read this because it's on the You're Smarter Than the Fifth Grader, and none of us knew, so I figured we could become more cultured together. We could expand our minds and our understanding of the world. Yeah. It says by Irving, Washington. Was it Washington Irving? Both could be a last name, and neither quite sound like a first name. So I don't know. 1783 to 1859. And then author Ignatius? Wait, that sounds very familiar. 1866, 1924 for illustrations. Maybe just Ignatius sounds familiar. I've heard that before. I've definitely heard that before. Alright, let me move myself up here. Oh, okay. A little bit. A little bit more. There you go. Is it? There are really cool illustrations in here. Really, really cool. Pngtuber. I like how it kind of looks like his hat could disconnect. Cause disconnects perfectly with the page rip. I don't know. I don't know if it's one of those only satisfying things, but anyway. Oh, other things. One other thing. Oh, and I like how there are also some little notes written here and there, like division, like preparing for long division. I don't know, but I guess this is somebody's, written in copy, which is cool. Maybe we'll add some cool notes that we can look at throughout. Last thing from my own life before we read this, about the side show, one with the sad ending. I'm not watching one with the same actor, but a comedy, a romantic comedy. So I feel better. I feel better seeing him alive. So it's good, and it's actually really funny. My face kind of hurts from smiling at it. But anyway, that's quite rare for me. But I'm glad he's mobile again and alive. I feel better. I'm just gonna forget the other ending. It's not real. Sure. But we're only 4 steps away from acceptance. Not that it's that deep for this, because it's just a show. But anyway, they're really cool illustrations, so I like these as well. I'm gonna have to alt tab, I guess, for chat, which is okay. Or I could just bring my phone over here. Oh, I will play. What? So, yeah. Alright. Okay, I probably won't have time to. Where is it? Where? Unless I won't have time to tap, but it would be inconvenient, so I don't want to. I don't know who she is. Okay. I guess so. It's good. I'll pay super attention, so if you want a Spark Notes version, if you were too busy, raging or focusing on your speedrun, then I can summarize. Maybe I could be like a much less efficient ChatGPT, something like that. Oh, it's kind of cut out, huh? Let me fix that. So better. Tiny. Let's have to make it a little bit bigger. And then it would fit much better. Okay. Sure, that's good. Okay. Yeah, that's good, it's pretty. Yeah, Ignis is the middle name, so it's probably somebody else for the illustrator. Alright. I should move a little bit more out of the way, because you might have to verify what you're hearing. I'll try to be the Is the fireplace okay? Is it too loud? One bonus gold star is I'll have you compete for gold stars. Not even for your grades, just for my own sense of importance. Okay, cool. What are these? You can see my mouse? Yes. Congress, Library of Congress. In 1906 copyright. Is published, blah blah blah. Oh, and this is what I meant by the illustrations last time. So they give you for the pages, for like the big full page drawings, they use an excerpt from the book to describe it, like as a source of inspiration for that drawing, or as a title of that drawing. It looks really cool. Like on page 15, these aren't really accurate. Where is it? Here. This one. Here it's 15 here, but not on the Actually, it does line up. Never mind. 15. It describes it as a drowsy, dreamy influence seems to hang over the land, and then they have a full page illustration to show it. I thought that was cool. And then Hatman again. It's in the Sleepy Hollow. Things like this I don't know how to pronounce, so I'm just gonna wing it, and then if it sounds a bit weird, you can tell me if it bothers you, I guess. Okay, we begin. Legend of Sleepy Hollow, found among the papers of the late Diedrich Knickerbocker. Pleasing land of drowsy head it was, of dreams that wait before the half-shut eye, and of gay castles in the clouds that pass, forever flushing round a summer sky. Castle of Indolence? In the bosom of one of these spacious coves which indent the eastern shores of the Hudson, at that broad expansion of the river, denominated by the ancient Dutch navigators the Tappan Zee, and where they always prudently shortened sail, and implored the protection of St. Nicholas, when they crossed their lies a small market town or rural port, which by some called Greensburg, but which is more generally and properly known by the name of Tarrytown. This name was given, we are told, in former days by the good housewives of the adjacent country, from the inveterate propensity of their husbands to linger about the village tavern on market days. Be that as it may, I do not vouch for the fact, but merely advert to it for the sake of being precise and authentic. Not far from this village, perhaps about 2 miles, there is a little valley, or rather lap of land among high hills, which is one of the quietest places in the whole world. A small brook glides through it, with just murmur enough to lull one to repose, and the occasional whistle of a quail or tapping of a woodpecker is almost the only sound that ever breaks in upon the uniform tranquillity. I need water already. I think I'm reading a bit too fast, so it's kind of hard to keep up. I can be slower. Tarrytown. I haven't heard of it. Okay, hold on. What? We really will play it one day. I plan to play lots of good games, because I don't play a ton, so it's better if we don't play games that are sort of lackluster just for the sake of playing something. So hopefully we'll play lots of good games that you recommend. We still have to play Resident Evil 4. That's supposed to be one of the first things. But I forgot. Well, we'll see why soon enough. Okay. I recollect that when a stripling, my first exploit in squirrel shooting was in a grove of tall walnut trees that shades one of the sides of the valley. I had wandered into it at noontime, when all nature is peculiarly quiet, and was startled by the roar of my own gun as it broke the Sabbath stillness around, and was prolonged and reverberated by the angry echoes. If ever I should wish for a retreat, whither, I might steal from the world and its distractions a dream quietly away, remnant of a troubled life. I know of none more promising than this little valley. From the listless repose of the place and the peculiar character of its inhabitants, who are descendants from the original Dutch settlers, this sequestered glen has long been known the name of Sleepy Hollow, and its rustic lads are called the Sleepy Hollow boys throughout all neighboring country. A drowsy, dreamy influence seems to hang over the land and to pervade the very atmosphere. Some say that the place was bewitched by a high German doctor during the early days of the settlement. Others that an old Indian chief, a prophet or wizard of his tribe, held his powwows there before the country was discovered by Master Hedrick Hudson. Certain it is a place still continues. My reading voice is kind of hard to hold up, more than my speaking voice. I don't know what's different about it, though. What is it? Is it too deep? Or is it hard? Good night, good night. Sleep well. That might be it. Maybe I'm forgetting to breathe. That might be it. Sleep well. This is sort of ASMR. It is a bit hard to grasp the meaning fully as one reading it, but hopefully you can grasp it. It might be breathing. That might be it. Maybe I should try to breathe more. I realize there's a similar feeling there. That might be it. Thank you. Yeah, I have to troubleshoot audiobooking on stream. Alright. Certain it is, the place still continues under the sway of some witching power that holds a spell over the minds of the good people, causing them to walk in a continual reverie. They are given to all kinds of marvelous beliefs, are subject to trances and visions, and frequently see strange sights and hear music and voices in the air. The whole neighborhood abounds with local tales, haunted spots, and twilight superstitions. Stars shoot and meteors glare oftener across the valley than in any other part of the country, and the nightmare, with her whole ninefold, seems to make it a favorite scene of her gambols. Gambols? The dominant spirit, however, that haunts this enchanted region, and seems to be a commander-in-chief of all the powers of the air, is the apparition of a figure on horseback without a head. It is said by some that to be a ghost of the Hessian trooper whose head had been carried away by a cannonball in some nameless battle during the Revolutionary War, and who was ever and anon seen by the country folk, hurrying along in the gloom of night, as if on the wings of the wind. His haunts are not confined to the valley, but extend at times to the adjacent roads, and especially to the vicinity of a church at no great distance. Indeed, certain of the most authentic historians of those parts, who have been careful in collecting and collating the floating facts concerning his spectre, alleged that the body of the trooper having been in churchyard, the ghost rides forth to the scene of battle in nightly quest of his head, and that the rushing speed with which he sometimes passes along the hollow like a midnight blast is owing to his being belated, and in a hurry to get back to the churchyard before daybreak. And here we have the beautiful images. I love these drawings. Oh, I love them. They're so beautiful. What a talented artist. Anyway, I just have to admire them for a little bit. It's the use of just very dark, almost just a silhouette, but then with white accents is really cool. This is really beautiful. Anyway, and the subtle use of color. Like to outline this woman here. Anyway, I have to admire it a little. It did say at the beginning, Arthur Keller, Arthur Ignatius Keller, is at the bottom too. I guess I'll get a bit more used to it as I read. Okay, Such is the general purport of this legendary superstition, which has furnished materials for many a wild story in the region of shadows, and the spectres known at all the country firesides by the name of the Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow. It is remarkable that the visionary propensity I have mentioned is not confined to the native inhabitants of the valley, but is unconsciously imbibed in every one who resides there for a time. However wide awake they may have been before they entered that sleepy region, they are sure, in little time, to inhale the witching influence of the air, and to begin to grow imaginative, to dream dreams and see apparitions. I mention this peaceful spot with all possible laud, for it is in such little retired Dutch valleys found here and there, embosomed in the great state of New York, that population, manners, and customs remain fixed, while the great torrent of migration and improvement which is making such incessant changes in other parts of this restless country sweeps by them unobserved. They are like those little nooks of still water which border the rapid stream, where we may see the straw and bubbling riding quietly at anchor, or slowly revolving in their mimic labor, undisturbed by the rush of the passing current. Though many years have elapsed since I trod the drowsy shades of Sleepy Hollow, yet I question whether I should not still find the same trees and same families vegetating in its sheltered bosom. In this by-place of nature there abode, in a remote period of American history, that is to say, some 30 years since, a worthy wight of the name of Ichabod Crane. Oh, there's the name. Sojourned, or, as he expressed it, tarried in Sleepy Hollow, for the purpose of instructing the children of the vicinity. He was a native of Connecticut, a state which supplies the Union with pioneers for the mind as well as for the forest, and sends forth yearly its legions of frontier woodsmen and country schoolmasters. Cognomen of Crane was not applicable to this person. He was tall but exceedingly lank, with narrow shoulders, long arms and legs, hands that dangled a mile out of his sleeve, feet that might have served for shovels, and his whole frame was loosely hung together. His head was small and flat at the top, with huge ears, large green glassy eyes, and a small snub nose, and that looked like a weathercock perched upon his spindle neck, to which way the wind flew. To see him striding along the profile of a hill on a windy day, with his clothes sagging and fluttering about him, one might have mistaken him for the genius of famine descending upon the earth. Some scarecrow eloped from a cornfield. It's a funny description. It's all well written, very humorous. Have a sleep? Oh, please do sleep whenever you want. You don't have to stay awake for a test. I won't quiz you. You can fall asleep to it if you want to. Or maybe you prefer music. In which case... Go ahead. Wojak. What is Wojak? I see that sometimes, but I don't know. Oh, is it a cartoon? The cartoon horseman? Okay. Well, I permit you. I bet you're at ease now knowing you're permitted, huh? Nimka, I think it's from that cartoon, right? When he's an alcoholic. I want to see that because I heard it's very... Despite its art style, it's very meditative. Introspective. I thought that would be interesting. Oh, we must be teleporting back to this time frame. To be master. Okay. Over-exaggerated emotion, usually derogatory in nature. Maybe I'm thinking of BoJack then. BoJack Horseman, huh? It's probably a similarity there. A tie with the names. BoJack. Yeah, BoJack Horseman, yeah. His schoolhouse was a low building of one large room, rudely constructed of logs, the windows partially glazed and partly patched with leaves of old copybooks. It was most ingeniously secured at vacant hours by a wide-twisted, in the handle of the door and stakes it against the window's shutters. Any water? Which one? I'm not sure I know. I was gonna say it's not such a good idea that I ate so much before this, but I guess there are also students in the schoolhouse. my pizza remains. The adjusted pizza is listening intently. Maybe helping me speak as well. Or taking away my speaking ability. We have yet to see. So that though a thief might get in with perfect ease, he would find some embarrassment in getting out. An idea most probably borrowed by the architect Jost van Hudson from the mystery of an eel pot. The schoolhouse stood in a rather lonely but pleasant situation just at the foot of a woody hill, with a brook running close by and a formidable birch tree growing at one end of it. From hence the low murmur of his pupils' voices, conning over their lessons, might be heard in a drowsy summer's day, like the hum of a beehive, interrupted now and then by the authoritative voice of the master, in a tone of menace or command, or peradventure by the appalling sound of the birch, as he urged some tardy loiterer along the flowery path of knowledge. Truth to say, he was a conscientious man, and ever bore in mind the golden maxim, "Spare the rod and spoil the child." Each of Uncrane's scholars certainly were not spoiled. Oh no, my father used to say that. I think, is it in the Bible? I'm assuming it was in the Bible. Maybe it's just an old saying. Complex. Yes. I did have to mull over it for a long time, decide if I was allowed to buy such a thing. Ultimately, I allowed myself, but it would be a very rare happening. I do hope I got one of the other jobs, because then we can use it as pizza pie. Pizza will be 2 in 1, plus a deal. Is it the Bible? That makes a lot of sense. This kid looks like he's doing more of like the stinky leg than being hit, but whatever you must do to survive, I suppose. Well, oh yeah, it's a raccoon. Well, they did say he was very lanky. I don't remember them describing his hair color as red. I might even put myself to sleep. In a good way, though. This is, I like it. It's soothing. I would not have imagined, however, he was one of those cool, potentates of the school who joy in the smart of their subjects. On the contrary, he administered justice with discrimination rather than severity, taking the burden off the backs of the weak and laying it on those of the strong. Your mere puny stripling, that winced at the least flourish of the rod, was passed by with indulgence, but the claims of justice were satisfied, inflicting a double portion on some little tough, wrong-headed, broad-skirted Dutch urchin, who sulked and swelled and grew dogged and sullen beneath the birch. All this he called doing his duty by their parents, and he never inflicted a chastisement without following it by an assurance so consolatory to the smarting urchin that he would remember it and thank him for the longest day he had to live. When school hours were over, he was even the companion and playmate of the larger boys, and on holiday afternoons would convoy some of the smaller ones home, who happened to have pretty sisters or good housewives for mothers, noted for the comforts of the cupboard. Indeed, it behooved him to keep on good terms with his pupils. The revenue arising from his school was small, and would have been scarcely sufficient to furnish him with daily bread, for he was a huge feeder. That's a funny description for a human. I think of that as like a vampire and maybe not so well written fan fiction. But he was a huge feeder. No link had the tiny about it. Of an anaconda, but to help out his maintenance, he was, according to country custom in those parts boarded and lodged at the houses of the farmers whose children he instructed. With these he lived successfully a week at a time, thus going the rounds of the neighborhood, with all his worldly effects tied upon in a cotton handkerchief. What an interesting way of life. Living like this is such a strange concept. Nomadic, but within a city, amongst the families of your pupils. It's so strange and interesting. It's become awkward with the family that you lived with, or with that student. Would you show favor to them? It's not awkward at home. But no, he says that he assures them after punishing, so maybe they end up not minding it and viewing him as a good figure. Anyway, and tied up in a cotton handkerchief reminds me of those, is there a name for them? Those sticks with the little handkerchief on the end? The handkerchief tied up on the end. When people say they're going away, that's all they have in cartoons or in old comics. I don't know that people ever travel like that because it doesn't make much sense, but it gives that kind of image, which fits with his lengthy image as well. It's cool. It's interesting. Anyway, that all this might not be too onerous on the purses of his rustic patrons, who are apt to consider the cost of schooling a grievous burden, and schoolmasters as mere drones. He had various ways of rendering himself both useful and agreeable. He assisted the farmers occasionally in the later labors of their farms, helped to make hay, mended the fences, took the horses to water, drove the cows from pasture, and cut wood for a winter fire. He laid aside, too, all the dominant dignity and absolute sway with which he lorded it in his little empire, the school, and became wonderfully gentle and ingratiating. He found favor in the eyes of the mothers by petting the children, particularly the youngest, and like the lion bold which Willem so magnanimously the lamb did hold, he would sit with the child on one knee and rock the cradle with his foot for whole hours together. This is an interesting character. I do like the sort of character that bends, one that's strong bends well, and easily, when needed, or in front of a loved one, or in front of mothers, or things like this. Is it called a bindle? That's good. Good to know. I'll try to remember. In addition to his other vocations, he was a singing master of the neighborhood, and picked up many bright shillings by instructing the young folks in psalmody. It was a matter of no little vanity to him on Sundays to take his station in front of the church gallery with a band of chosen singers, where in his own mind he completely carried away the palm from the parson. Certain it is, his voice resounded far above all the rest in the congregation, and there are peculiar quavers still to be heard in the church, and which may even be heard half a mile off, quite to the opposite side of the mill pond, on a still Sunday morning, which are said to be legitimately descended from the nose of vtuber crane. Thus, by divers little makeshifts, in that ingenious way which is commonly denominated by hook and by crook, the worthy pedagogue got on tolerably enough, and was thought by all who understood nothing of the labor of head work to have a wonderful easy life of it. The schoolmaster is generally a man of some importance in the female circle of a rural neighborhood, being considered a kind and idle gentleman-like personage, a vastly superior taste and accomplishments to the rough country swains, and indeed inferior in learning only to the parson. His appearance therefore is apt to occasion some little stir at the tea table of a farmhouse, and the addition of a supremacy dish of cakes or sweetmeats, or peradventure the parade of silver teapot. Our man of letters therefore was peculiarly happy in the smiles of all the country damsels. How he would figure among them in the churchyard between services on Sundays, gather grapes for them from the wild vines that overrun the surrounding trees, reciting for their amusement all the epitaphs on the tombstones, or sauntering the whole bevy of them along the banks of the adjacent milk pond, while the more bashful country bumpkins hung sheepishly back, envying his superior elegance and address. From this itinerant life also, he was a kind of travelling gazette, carrying the whole budget of local gossip from house to house, so that his appearance was always greeted with satisfaction. He was moreover esteemed by the women as a man of great erudition. I assume this is like great education because of erudite, for he had read several books quite through, and was a perfect master of Cotton Mather's History of New England Witchcraft, in which, by the way, he most firmly and potentially believes. A churchman who believes in witchcraft. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? Of course, who else would burn the witches? That makes much sense. Erudition? Yeah. Alright, he was in fact an odd mixture of small shrewdness and simple credulity. His appetite for the marvelous and his powers of digesting it were equally extraordinary. What? And what was it? Oh! And both had been increased by his residence in this spellbound region. No tale was too gross or monstrous for his capacious swallow. It was often his delight, after his school was dismissed in the afternoon, to stretch himself on the rich bed of clover bordering that little brook that whimpered by the schoolhouse, and there con over old Mather's direful tales, until the gathering dusk of evening made the printed page a mere mist before his eyes. Then, as he wended his way, by swamp and stream and awful woodland, to the farmhouse where he happened to be quartered, every sound of nature at that witching hour fluttered his excited imagination. The moan of the whippoorwill from the hillside, the rolling cry of the tree toad that the harbinger of storm, the dreary hooting of the screech owl, or the sudden rustling of a thicket of birds frightened from their roost. The fireflies, too, which sparkled most vividly in the darkest places, now and then startled him, as one of... Whippoorwill is a bird which is only heard at night. It receives its name from its note, which is thought to resemble those words. Whippoorwill, whippoorwill. I used to be able to do like a bird whistle, but I can't. I'll try. It's not quite. It's hard to do if I'm laughing at myself. Did it? Does it kind of pick up? I can't do the finger whistle, so I've tried so hard. And the grass whistle. You think? Yeah, I can hear that. That's more like a bird, right? But yeah, I tried so hard to do the grass whistle. You know, when you take a long blade of grass and you can make a loud whistle noise with it. I remember I did it one time and I tried so hard after that and I couldn't. Never again. I'm assuming this is the the vtuber crane. The rest don't look so happy. Okay. Hey Ross. Oh, the previous sentence. We have to find it. Sparkled most vividly in the darkest places, now and then startled him, as one of uncommon brightness would stream across his path, and if by chance a huge blockhead of a beetle came winging his blundering flight against him, the poor violet was ready to give up the ghost, with the idea that he was struck with a witch's token. His only resource on such occasions, either to drown thought or drive away evil spirits, was to sing psalm tunes, and the good people of Sleepy Hollow, as they sat by their doors of an evening, were often filled with awe at hearing his nasal melody, ending sweetness long drawn out, floating from the distant hill or along the dusky road. Another of his sources of fearful pleasure was to pass long winter evenings with the old Dutch wives as they sat spinning by the fire, with rows of apples roasting and spluttering along the hearth, and listen to their marvelous tales of ghosts and goblins, and haunted fields, and haunted brooks, and haunted bridges, and haunted houses, and particularly of the headless horseman, or galloping Hasten of the Hollow, as I sometimes called him. He would delight them equally by his anecdotes of witchcraft, and of the direful omens and portentous sights of sounds in the air, which prevailed in the early times of Connecticut, and would frighten them woefully with speculations upon comets and shooting stars, and with the alarming fact that the world did absolutely turn round, and that they were half the time topsy-turvy. But if there was a pleasure in all this, while snugly cuddling in the chimney corner of a chamber that was all of a ruddy glow from the crackling wood fire, and where, of course, no spectre dared show its face, it was dearly purchased by the terrors of his subsequent walk homewards. While fearful shapes and shadows beset his path amidst the dim and ghastly glare of a snowy night, with what wistful look did his eye every trembling ray of light streaming across the waste fields from some distant window. How often was he appalled by some shrub covering with snow which, like a sheeted spectre, beset his very path. How often did he shrink with curdling awe at the sound of his own steps on the frosty crust beneath his feet, and dread to look over his shoulder, lest he should behold some uncouth being trampling close behind him. And how often was he thrown into complete dismay by some rustling blast howling among the trees, and the idea that it was the galloping Hessian, on one of his nightly scorings. I'm not sure how to say Hessian, but I'll just go with that. It's such a long-winded way to explain that once you hear ghost stories, you get scared of everything. I really like it. So much artistry. Fruit yogurt? You've only missed more descriptions of his characters, really. Of his character. And him being scared at night. Him sharing ghost stories with the mothers. The women. That's it. Making. Well, at least you were able to do it. I try so hard, but all that comes out is spit. Yeah, so you didn't miss too much yet. Huh? Okay. I should have brought tea. I really should have. Back up for a sec, huh? If only I was so erudite as this man. Well, I'm not gonna look it up. I don't think that's how you use it. Which makes it kind of funny. Funny and ironic. But anyway. All these, however, were mere terrors of the night, phantoms of the mind that walk in darkness, and though he had seen many spectres in his time, and been more than one beset by Satan in divers shapes, in his lonely perambulations, yet daily put an end to all these evils, and he would have passed a pleasant life of it, in spite of the devil and all his works. if his path had not been crossed by a being that causes more perplexity to mortal man than ghosts, goblins, and the whole race of witches put together, and that was a woman. Among the musical disciples who assembled one evening in each week to receive his instructions in psalmody was Katrina van Tassel, the daughter and only child of a substantial Dutch farmer. Voilà. Now we know who the woman is. She was a blooming lass of fresh 18, plump as a partridge, ripe and melting and rosy-cheeked as one of her father's peaches, and universally famed, not merely for her beauty but her vast expectations. She was withal a little of a coquette, as might be perceived even in her dress, which was a mixture of ancient and modern fashions, as most suited to set off her charms. She wore the ornaments of pure yellow gold, which her great-great-grandmother had brought over from Sardom, the tempting stomacher of the olden time, and withal a provoking short petticoat to display the prettiest foot and ankle in the country round. By coquette, they mean that she was a bit, overly plump, and you could see even through her clothes. But I guess at the time that's not a bad thing. Do you know what that means? Coquette? What do they mean, womanly wiles? Do they mean with a little, tempting? I could just look up the definition myself. But I thought maybe you know. I'll just put it here though. Yeah? I think so. I've heard it before. Well, I'll look it up later. Okay. Jim Crane had a soft and foolish heart towards the sex, and it is not to be wondered at that so tempting a morsel soon found favour in his eyes, more especially after he had visited her in her paternal mansion. Old Baltus Van Tassel was a perfect picture of a thriving, contented, liberal-hearted farmer. He seldom, it is true, sent either his eyes or his thoughts beyond the boundaries of his own farm, but within those everything was snug, happy, and well-conditioned. He was satisfied with his wealth, but not proud of it, and piqued himself upon the hardy abundance, rather than the style in which he lived. His stronghold was situated on the banks of the Hudson, in one of those green-sheltered, fertile nooks in which the Dutch farmers are so fond of nestling. A great elm tree spread its broad branches over it, at the foot of which bubbled up a spring of the softest and sweetest water, in a little well formed of a barrel, and then stole sparkling away through the grass. A neighboring brook that bubbled along among elders and dwarf willows. Hard by the farmhouse was a vast barn that might have served for a church, every window and crevice of which seemed bursting forth with the treasures of the farm. The floor was busily resounding within it from morning to night. Swallows and martins skimmed, twittering about the eaves, and rows of pigeons, some with one eye turned up as if watching the weather, some with their heads under the wings or buried in their bosoms, and others swelling and cooing and buying about their dames, were enjoying the sunshine on the roof. Sleek unwieldy porkers, funny, were grunting in their applause and abundance of their pens, and sallied forth now and then troops of bucking pigs as if to snuff the air. A stately squadron of snowy geese were riding in an adjoining pond, convoying whole fleets of ducks. Regiments of turkeys were gobbling through the farmyard, and guinea fowls fretting about it like ill-tempered housewives, with their peevish, discontented cry. Before the barn door shouted the gallant cock the pattern of a husband, a warrior, and a fine gentleman clapping his burnished wings, and crowing in the pride and gladness kindness of his heart, sometimes tearing up the earth with his feet, and then generously calling his ever-hungry family of wives and children to enjoy the rich morsel which he had discovered. The pedagogue's mouth watered as he looked upon this sumptuous promise of luxurious winter fare. In his devouring mind's eye he pictured to himself every roasting pig running about with pudding in his belly and an apple in his mouth. The pigeons were snugly put to bed in a comfortable pie and tucked in with their coverlet of crust. The geese were swimming in their own gravy. The ducks swing cozily in dishes, like smug married couples with a decent competency of onion sauce. In the porkers he saw carved out the future sleek side of bacon and juicy relishing ham, not turkey, but he beheld daintily trussed up, with its gizzard under its wing, and peradventure a necklace of savoury sausages, and even bright Chanticleer himself lay sprawling on his back, and a side dish with unlifted claws, as if craving that quarter which his chivalrous spirit disdained to ask while living. As the enraptured Ichabod fancied all this, and as he rolled his great green eyes over the fat meadowlands, the rich fields of wheat, of rye, of buckwheat, and Indian corn, and the orchards burdened with ruddy fruit, which surrounded the warm tenement of Van Tassel, his heart yearned after the damsel who was to inherit these domains, and his imagination expanded with the idea how they might be readily turned into cash, and the money invested in immense tracts of wild land, and single palaces in the wilderness. Nay, his busy fancy already realized his hopes, and presented to him the blooming Katrina, with a whole family of children, mounted on top of a wagon, loaded with household trumpery, with pots and kettles dangling beneath, and he beheld himself bestriding a pacing mare, with a colt at her heels, setting out for Kentucky, Tennessee, or the Lord knows where. He's built this whole future in his head. He's not even acquainted in this way with her, and yet he pictures eating her family's animals in such detail as well. An interesting mind. Is it? I see. Okay, stretch. Little stretch. How's your posture? I mention it because I am distracting you from my break. I have to be honest there. I wanted to be. I see. When he entered the house, the conquest of his heart was complete. It was one of those spacious farmhouses with high-ridged but low-lay sloping roofs, both in the style handed down from the first Dutch settlers, the low projecting eaves forming a piazza along the front, capable of being closed up in bad weather. Under this were hung flails, harness, various utensils of husbandry, and nets for fishing in the neighborhood river. Benches were built along the sides for summer use, and a great spinning wheel at one end of the churn at the other showed the various uses to which this important porch might be devoted. In this piazza, a wondering Ichabod entered the hall, which formed the center of the mansion, and the place of usual residence. Here rows of resplendent pewter, ranged on a long dresser, dazzled his eyes. In one corner stood a huge bag of wool ready to be spun, and another a quantity of linsey woolsey, just from the loom, ears of Indian corn, and a string of dried apples and peaches, hung in gay festoons along the walls, mingled with a god of red peppers, and a door left ajar gave him a peep into the best parlor, where the claw-footed chairs and dark mahogany tables shone like mirrors. Indians, with their accompanying shovel and tongs, glistened from their covert of asparagus tops. Mock oranges and conch shells decorated the mantelpiece, Strings of various colored birds' eggs were suspended above it. A great ostrich egg was hung from the center of the room, and a corner cupboard, knowingly left open, displayed immense treasures of odd silver and well-mended china. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. From the moment each of us leaned his arms upon these regions of delight, the peace of his mind was at an end, and his only study was how to gain the affections of the peerless daughter of Van Tassel. In this enterprise, however, he had more real difficulties than generally fell to the lot of the knight-errant of yore, who seldom had anything but giants, enchanters, fiery dragons, and such like easily conquered adversaries to contend with, and had to make his way merely through the gates of iron and brass, and walls of adamant, to the castle keep, where the lady of his heart was confined, all which he achieved as easily as a man would carve his way to the center of a Christmas pie, and then the lady gave him her hand as a matter of course. Each abroad on the contrary had to win his way to the I like this drawing. Had to win his way to the heart of a country coquette, beset with a labyrinth of whims and caprices, which were forever presenting new difficulties and impediments. He had to encounter a host of fearful adversaries, of real flesh and blood, the numerous rustic admirers who beset every portal to her heart, keeping a watchful and angry eye upon each other, but ready to fly out in a common cause against any new competitor. Among these, the most formidable was a burly, roaring, roistering blade of the name of Abraham, or, according to Dutch abbreviation, Brom van Brunt. Sure. Hero of the country road, which rang with his feats of strength and hardihood. He was broad-shouldered and double-jointed, with short curly black hair and a bluff, but not unpleasant countenance. Having a mingled air of fun and arrogance. From his Herculean frame and great powers of limb, had received the nickname of Brombones, by which he was universally known. He was famed for great knowledge and skill in horsemanship, being as dexterous on horseback as a Tartar. He was foremost at all races and cockfights, and with the ascendancy which bodily strength always acquires in rustic life, was the umpire in all disputes, setting his hat on one side and giving his decisions with an air and tone admitting of no gainsay or appeal. On the scarf? Let me see. Yes, it is good. It's a good use of highlighting, huh? I think this is him. This is his competitor. I must drink more. He was always ready for either a fight or a frolic, but had more mischief than ill will in his composition, and with all his overbearing roughness there was a strong dash of waggish good humour at bottom. He had 3 or 4 boon companions who regarded him as their model, and at the head of whom he scoured the country, attending every scene of fun or merriment for miles around. In cold weather he was distinguished by his fur cap, surmounted with a flaunting fox's tail, and when the folks at the country gathering described this well-known crest at a distance, whisking about among the squad of hard riders, they always stood by for a squall. Sometimes his crew would be hard dashing along past the farmhouses at midnight, with whoop and hello, 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 like a troop of long Cossacks. And old dames, startled out of their sleep, would listen for a moment till the hurry scurry had clattered by, and then exclaim, there goes Brombones and his gang. The neighbors looked upon him with a mixture of awe, admiration, and goodwill, and when any madcap prank or rustic brawl occurred in the vicinity, always shook their heads and warranted Brombones was at the bottom of it. This This rentable hero had for some time singled out the blooming Katrina for the object of his uncouth gallantries, and though his amorous toyings were something like the gentle caresses and endearments of a bear, yet it was whispered that she did not altogether discourage his hopes. Certain it is, his advances were signals for rival candidates to retire, who felt no inclination to cross a lion in his armors. Moors. Insomuch that when his horse was seen tied to Van Tassel's palings on a Sunday night, a sure sign that his master was courting, or as it is termed, sparking within all other suitors, passed by in despair, and carried the war into other quarters. Such was the formidable rival with whom Ichabod Crane had to contend, and considering all things, a stouter man than he would have shrunk from the competition, and a wiser man would have despaired. He had, however, a happy mixture of pliability and perseverance in his nature. He was in form and spirit like a supplejack, yielding, but tough, and though he bent he never broke, and though he bowed beneath the slightest pressure, yet the moment it was away, jerk, he was erect and carried his head as high as ever. Had taken the field openly against his rival, to have taken the field openly against his rival would have been madness. He was not a man to be thwarted in his amours, any more than that stormy lover Achilles. Ichabod therefore made his advances in a quiet and gently insinuating manner, under cover of his character and singing master. He made frequent visits to the farmhouse, not that he had anything to apprehend from this meddlesome interference of parents, which is so often a stumbling block in the path of lovers. But Van Tassel was an easy indulgent soul. He loved his daughter better even than his pipe, and like the reasonable man and excellent father, let her have her way in everything. His notable little wife too had enough to attend to had enough to do to attend to her housekeeping and manage her poultry, for as she sagely observed, ducks and geese are foolish things, and must be looked after, for girls can take care of themselves. Thus, while the busy dame bustled about the house or plied her spinning wheel at one end of the piazza, honest Bolt would sit smoking his evening pipe at the other, watching the achievements of a little wooden warrior, who, armed with a sword in each hand, was most valiantly fighting the wind on the pinnacle of the barn. In the meantime, Ichabod would carry on his suit with the daughter by the side of the spring under the great elm, or sauntering along the twilight, the hour so favorable to the lover's eloquence. Very beautiful. The full colors are a nice highlight every so often. Yes. Do they not have rivals now? Of course they do. I do like the clothing, yes. When an ankle is considered scandalous, bare ankle. Interesting. I profess not to know how women's hearts are wooed and won. To me they have always been matters of ardor and admiration. Some seem to have but one vulnerable point, or door of access, while others have 1,000 avenues, and may be captured in 1,000 different ways. It is a great triumph of skill to gain the former, but still greater proof of generalship to maintain possession of the latter. For the man must battle for his fortress at every door and window. He who wins 1,000 common hearts is therefore entitled to some renown, but he who keeps undisputed sway over the heart of a coquette is indeed a hero. Certain it is, this was not the case with the redoubtable Brombones. Redoubtable? I don't know. You make of that what you will. And from the moment Ichabod Crane made his advances, the interest of the former evidently declined. His horse was no longer seen tied at the palings on Sunday nights, and a deadly feud gradually rose between him and the preceptor of Sleepy Hollow. Does this mean evidently declined, but no longer in existence. So it's saying that it's assuming that his interest is low has been decreased, but that a feud has arisen. So I guess he means that he's pretending that it has. Is that it? That he's just not evidently pursuing her now. Now he wants to settle it with him first. Redoubtable? I see. mm. Evil, remarkable. mm. Bum had a degree of rough chivalry. Chivalry, in his nature, would fain have carried matters to open warfare, and have settled their pretensions to the lady according to the mode of those most concise and simple reasoners, the knight-errant of yore, by single combat. But Ichiban was too conscious of the superior might of his adversary to venture this against him. He had overheard a boast of Bones that he would double the schoolmaster up and lay him on the shelf of his own schoolhouse, and he was too wary to give him an opportunity. There was something extremely provoking in this obstinately pacific system. Left Brom no alternative but to draw upon the funds of rustic waggery in his disposition, and to play off boorish practical jokes upon his rival. Ishima became the object of whimsical persecutions to Bones and his gang of Rough Riders. They harried his hitherto peaceful domains, smoked out his singing school by stopping up the chimney, broke into the schoolhouse at night in spite of its formidable fastenings of widened window stakes, and turned everything topsy-turvy, so that the poor schoolmaster began to think all the witches in the country held their meetings there. What was more annoying, Brom took all opportunities of turning him into ridicule in presence of his mistress, and had a scoundrel dog whom he taught to whine in the most ludicrous manner, and introduced as a rival of Ichiban's, to instruct her in psalmody. Scoundrel dog. In this way matters went on for some time, without producing any material effect on the relative situation of the contending powers. On a fine autumnal afternoon, Ichiban in pensive mood sat enthroned on a lofty stool, whence he usually watched all corners of his little literary realm. In his hand he swayed a ferule, spectre of despotic power. The birch of justice reposed on 3 nails behind the throne, a constant terror to evildoers, while on his desk before him might be seen sundry contraband articles and prohibited weapons detected upon the persons of idle urchins, such as half-munched apples, pop-guns, whirligigs, fly-cages, and whole legions of rampant little paper gamecocks. Apparently there had been some appalling act of justice recently inflicted, for his scholars were all busily intent upon their books, or shyly whispering behind them, with one eye kept upon the master. And a kind of buzzing stillness reigned throughout the schoolroom. It was suddenly interrupted by the appearance of okay. And I don't know if it's like okay. I don't think so. In a top cloth jacket and trousers and round-crowned fragment of a hat, like cap of Mercury, and mounted on the back of a ragged, wild, half-broken coat, which he managed with a rope by way of halter. He came clattering up to the school door with an invitation to Ichiban to attend a merrymaking or quilting frolic to be held that evening at Menhir Dantassos, and having delivered his message, we must understand this was published in what, 1906? That can't be right because it was written by someone who died in 1859, so it's just this version was published in 1906, which makes sense because the illustrator lived after him. They didn't even work together, because he died in 1859 and the other was born in 1866. That's interesting. Post-death you have new people you're working with. the people who work with you. Yeah, so given the context of its time, yeah, I I don't know. I don't know. We'll see if there's anything particularly bad. With the air of importance and effort of fine language, which is too apt to display on petty embassies of the. I don't want that. He dashed over the brook and was seen scampering away up the hollow, full of importance and hurry of his mission. All was now bustle and hubbub in the quiet schoolroom. The scholars were hurrying along their lessons without stopping at trifles. Those who were nimble skipped over half with impunity, and those who were tardy had smart application now and then to the rear to quicken their speed or help them over a tall word. Books were flung aside without being put away on the shelves, inkstands were overturned, benches thrown down, and the whole school was turned loose an hour before the usual time, bursting forth like a legion of young imps, yelling and racketing about the green in joy at their early emancipation. Oh, I was afraid to speed. I need water. I don't fully understand what even happened here. An invitation? What is the invitation? Oh, I see. So it's some merrymaking. So maybe, I guess they're all excited, but would children be invited to that? I guess. We didn't read out loud. I don't think. Or maybe it was purposely, that part was purposely skipped if we did. I think we did individual reading for a reason. Okay, hold up. What is Chad like about him? You mean the picture? I suppose it's cool how you ride the horse. This one is choking it. I guess we'll see who this is soon. No, I know, but why is he Chad? Oh. Okay. Well, we'll see if he wins our heart. We'll see. We're at about the halfway mark. How much more would you like me to read? Out of curiosity. Are you sleepy? Are you still playing Minecraft? When do you have to go to work though? Isn't it late? Oh right, you ate. Okay. I'll sit. Alright, we'll read more then. But do tell me if you go to sleep. I'm at your disposal, I guess. Because I don't have a preference. Yeah? Do you? Oh, when do you go? When are you leaving? Tomorrow. Well, once we find a good stopping place, we could do that. Then we could split it into two. Anyway, I should try not to read over these parts that are not okay now, because they were written at a time, and it's good to know, I guess, how people thought and you know, what kind of language they used. For the sake of accuracy and for the sake of understanding past and not repeating it. So even if it is uncomfortable, but I don't want to say those words though, but the surrounding stuff, sure. It is sad though. You could say the same of so many things that are so wrong. Yeah. Well, yes. But, it's just different to see thoughts like this. Yeah. It's sad. But yeah, we shouldn't just skip them either. But not this though. Not this word. How many pages? Oh, we're at page 50 and it's 102. Well, actually, it says 56 out of 102. So we're almost halfway there. I mean, we're more than halfway there. So, so, oh, wait. It's not about the way that language has changed, though. It's about how, like, what we deem acceptable and humane has changed. Is that even understandable now? Is that ever understandable? Oh, 10 a.m.? 10 a.m. Oh. Okay, we'll find a good place to stop then. Maybe in a page or two. There aren't any chapters because it's a short story, but the illustrations drag it out considerably. Oh, okay. Wait. 6, 7, okay. Where were we? I guess if people find it funny, they find it funny. Is this like E? Is this like why a letter is funny? And I try to understand the humor. I guess it's just not so random humor. That's not to question it. We'll leave it. Okay, the Galnichibad now spent at least an extra half hour at his toilet, brushing and furnishing up his vest. I guess that's like, a vanity. And indeed only suit of rustic black, and arranging his looks by a bit of broken-looking glass that hung up in the schoolhouse, that he might make his appearance before his mistress in the true style of a cavalier. He borrowed a horse from the farmer with whom he was domiciliated. Yes. Choleric old Dutchman. Also, I guess it's just a toilet. It's just a bathroom. Because he's not... The mirror is a piece of broken glass. A looking glass. Choleric old Dutchman. By choleric, do they mean someone who has contracted cholera? Is that what choleric is? Some... Oh, okay. I see. Okay. Is cholera... I want to look into cholera a bit after this, once we find a good stopping place. Let me see if there's one here. Clerical Dutchman, of the name of Hans van Ripper, and thus gallantly mounted, issued forth like a knight-errant in quest of adventures. But it is meet I should, in the true spirit of romantic story, give some account of the looks and equipments of my hero and his steed. The animal he bestrode was a broken-down plough-horse that had outlived most everything but his viciousness. He was gaunt and shagged, with an eel neck and a head like a hammer. His rusty mane and tail were tangled and knotted with spurs. One eye had lost its pupil, he was glaring and spectral, but the other had a gleam of genuine devil in it. Still, he must have had fire and metal in his day, if we may judge from the name he bore of gunpowder. No, I wasn't. I just didn't. No, not an R-rated scene. Just things that are unethical. Just uncomfortable reading about descriptions of people that are really prejudiced. Even if it's a book, it feels weird coming out of my mouth. So that's why. But yeah. Anyway, that's why it's uncomfortable. But Mm, it's good to know. He had in fact been a favorite steed of his master's, the cleric Van Ripper. What is cleric? We'll look it up after. Who was a furious rider, had infused very probably some of his own spirit into the animal, for old and broken down as he looked, there was more of a lurking devil in him than in any young filly in the country. Each rode was a suitable figure for such a steed. He rode with short stirrups, which brought his knees nearly up to the pommel of his saddle. His sharp elbows stuck out like grasshoppers. He carried his whip perpendicularly in his hand, like a scepter, and as his horse jogged on, the motion of his arms was not unlike the flapping of a pair of wings. Small wool hat rested on top of his nose, for so his scanty strip of forehead might be called, and the skirts of his black coat fluttered out almost to the horse's tail. Such was the appearance of Ichabod and his steed, and they stumbled out of the gate of Hans Van Ripper, and was altogether such an apparition as is seldom to be met with in broad daylight. It was, as I have said, a fine autumnal day. The sky was clear and serene, and nature wore that rich and golden livery which we always associate with the idea of abundance. The forests had put on their sober brown and yellow, while some trees of the tenderer kind had been nipped in the frost into forests had been put on their sober brown and yellow, while some trees of the tenderer kind had been nipped by the frost into brilliant dyes of orange, purple, and scarlet. Streaming files of the wild duck began to make their appearance high in the air. The bark of the squirrel might be heard from the groves of beech and hickory nuts, and the pensive whistle of the quail at intervals from a neighboring subtle field. The small birds were taking their farewell banquets. In the fullness of their revelry, they fluttered, chirping and frolicking, from bush to bush and tree to tree, capricious from the very profusion and variety around them. There was the honest cock-robin, the favorite game of stripling sportsmen. Stripling sportsmen, with its loud, querulous note, and the twittering blackbirds flying in the sable clouds. The golden-winged woodpecker with his crimson crest, his broad black gorget, and splendid plumage, and the cider-bird with its red-tipped wings and yellow-tipped tail, and the little Montero cap of feathers, and the blue jay, that noisy coxcomb, in his gay light blue coat and white underclothes, screaming and chattering, nodding and bobbing and bowing, and pretending to be on good terms with every songster of the grove. So here is a good place to stop. It's a description of nature as he rode. So we're getting him riding to the gathering, the party. I do wonder where the headless horseman comes in. So far, it seems like an object of a person, a mystery, of fantasy. But it can't just be that. He must show up. Right? So we must. Yeah, that's plagued. It's good though. We can finish it faster next time too, because now we've read about 60% of the way through, something like that. And then we've gotten a sense of the story, but we will have to finish it very soon, or else we will forget. Or I will forget. I don't speak for your memories, but I really like the illustrations add so much to this. Oh wait, I scrolled a little, so it took the it made it look a little worse. Has it? Let me go to OBS. Oh, it has. It really did feel like nothing. Yay, reading. Alright, let's look up color as I collect. Well, not caloric as in caloric density, but Oh, the sunset's still here. Caloric. Let me see. CHO. Maybe we'll look up cholera first. I don't know how to spell this. It's gonna get auto-corrected to the other type of cholera. Cholera is an acute, life-threatening diarrheal infection caused by consuming food or water contaminated with Vibrio cholerae bacteria. Causes severe rapid dehydration through watery. Oh, so that's terrible. Oh, dehydration therapy to prevent death within hours. 12-hour to 5-day incubation period, and is primarily transmitted in areas with poor sanitation. So this can't be like his nickname. His nickname can't be carrying a short-stayed, fatal disease. It can't be. So what is choleric? Unless it's used hyperbolically, in which case that is an interesting way to say that's sick. To say that's sick, or what did you write? That's plagued. It says here,
Choleric.
it had the pronounce. I don't know. I can't read the pronunciation guide below. But maybe one day we'll do a stream and we learn how to read that. I can't hear it without the sound, but I could hear, in air quotes, I could hear it if I knew what those meant. The way it's written out, how do you say? In syllables, in whatever you call the writing where it simplifies it, so you can read the pronunciation without hearing. Anyway, the definition is bad-tempered or irritable, which makes sense for a fast-moving and fatal disease. Also, influence or predominating in the humor called color.
Collar.
Oh, I see. One of 4 humors, identified with this blood, apparently color. What's the other one? Water. No. It does seem like something you'd balance in the human body, though. Yeah. But it makes sense. Like an aggressive disease. Maybe that kind of parallel is why we call diseases aggressive too. Maybe it went the other way as well. Well, that being said, our reading, our homework is complete. Well, for today. We will soon finish it because I don't want to forget what happened, and I hope that the Headless Horseman does show up. It would be a shame to just have the Headless Horseman, but then every horseman has a head. For it to be called the Headless Horseman, but everyone has a head. I guess it's not called that, but it's known for it. It's called Sleepy Hollow. I have a prediction, but I think it's out there and I don't want to ruin it. Yeah, it's in the mythology of Sleepy Hollow. Yeah. Okay. My voice is tired. Hope I have good news. My prediction? If you'd like to hear it. Well, it's, that I think the way he's dressed, people will be afraid of him like he's a ghost. And they'll go to, like he's a ghost or a demon, and they'll go after him with pitchforks and they'll take his head off. And then he'll be like a symbol of the Headless Horseman that never really was. And they'll just have the head of Ichabod Crane. And he won't have his girl or his chickens or his fancy house with the china and the peppers. Yeah, something like that. Like, a tale, an anecdote of close-minded, rural, people who are susceptible to witchcraft beliefs. What is that called? Not naive, but people usually believe in like witches or spells or curses. I can think of it. I can think of the word. I can. Susceptible, naive, impervious, the opposite. Superstitious. Superstitious. Yeah, that's it. Superstitious. Gullible too, sure. I just thought it would be interesting if they make the legend come true because of superstition. And there is one, but he doesn't ride. Or maybe he becomes it. Anyway. That's it. And I will go. As I said, I hope there's good news soon. And I'll tell you, and can eat leftover pizza. And we'll play more games soon. And we'll finish this soon. And yeah. Alright. Have a good night. Well, don't let my failure limit your pizza getting. Your pizza adventures. But I hope so. Alright. Bye. Goodbye. Thank you for the company in this small book club. Okay.